And we are live, Your Worship.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Clerk, and good morning, everybody, and welcome to our council meeting. We'll start off with calling the meeting to order, of course, and 1.1 is our land acknowledgement. I'll turn to Councillor DeLeo. Councillor?
Councillor DeLeo, you're muted.
Sorry, you're muted, Councillor.
My bad. Sorry, my apologies. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The town of Wasaga Beach acknowledges it is located upon the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe people of the Three Fires Confederacy. We also acknowledge that the people of the Wyandot Nation also inhabited these lands. We acknowledge that these nations were sovereign nations existing before the arrival of settlers. We respect the spiritual interconnection among these nations to the land and to the water. We also acknowledge that waterways near us have a long history predating European arrival. Since time immemorial, waterways were the lifeblood of the indigenous people by trade and hunting routes. We are dedicated to inclusivity of First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people in our future stewardship of the land and the longest freshwater beach in the world. In the spirit of reconciliation, we welcome the opportunity of learning to be sustainable caretakers of the land and waterways for all future generations. Thank you.
Thank you, Megwich, Councillor DeLeo, and we head on to the rest of the agenda. Before I do, I want to welcome our Deputy Clerk, Laura Borland, back. Been away for a year with her lovely baby boy, and welcome back, Laura.
Thank you very much.
And I'd also like to wish our other Deputy Clerk, Barb, happy birthday, Barb. Today is the big day. 30 years old. That's amazing. All right. Item number 2 is proclamations, and we have no proclamations today. Item number 3 is disclosure of pecuniary interests. I have none before me at this time, and if at some point throughout the meeting you feel you have a pecuniary interest, please let us know at that time for the record. On to item number 4, adoption of the agenda and the recommended motion. Before I go to that, I'm going to turn to our clerk, Nicole. Nicole?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just so Council is informed and the public, we will move item 8.1, delegations from the NBCA Chair, Jonathan Scott, who's joined us today, to be heard right after his presentation on the 2024 year in review, just to allow our guests to get on with their day. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. And the recommended motion is that the contents of the agenda for March 6, 2025 be approved as circulated. Any questions or comments on the agenda? Mover and a seconder for this, please. Moved by Councillor Belanger, seconded by Deputy Mayor Snell. All in favor? That carries unanimously. And I'll just make a note for the record that Councillor Ego was going to be with us today, but her flights were delayed and she will not be joining us today. On to item number 5 is approval of the minutes. 5.1, the special council meeting minutes from February 13th, 2025. And the recommended motion is that the minutes for the special council meeting held on February 13th, 2025 are hereby adopted as circulated. Any questions or comments on these? Seeing none, a mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor White, seconded by Councillor Timms. All in favor? That carries unanimously. Item number 5.2 is the minutes from the February 13th, 2025. And the recommended motion is that the minutes of the regular council meeting held February 13th, 2025 are hereby adopted as circulated. Questions or comments on these minutes, if any? All right, seeing none, a mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Timms, seconded by Councillor DeLeo. All in favor? That carries unanimously. Under item number 6, public meetings, we have no public meetings today. And under item number 7, presentations, we do have the Chair, Jonathan Scott, and the interim CAO, Sheriff Flanagan, from the Wasaga Valley Conservation Authority for the 2024 year in review with us today. Good morning, Jonathan, and good morning, Cheryl. Welcome, and the floor is yours.
Good morning, and thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council, for having us here today. And I also want to thank your clerk's team for really accommodating us and being so helpful. And as well, I want to thank Councillor Belanger, and maybe embarrass him just a little to say he is a phenomenal advocate for the town of Wasaga Beach. He always asks the tough questions. That probably is no surprise to you folks, and comes up with creative solutions, and just is off of 2 days being on our hiring committee for our new CAO. So, Joe, thank you for everything you do and for inviting us here today. The NVCA does important work to protect and restore our natural environment, and a lot of this happens behind the scenes. So the opportunity to share our year in review with you is really welcome. Our interim CIO, Cheryl Flanagan, is leading a great team of dedicated public servants, and we're very proud of the work they do. We also know, and I'll speak more to this in the second part of our presentation to you this morning, that we have areas to improve on, and we're hard at work in that regard with a strong action plan to really improve our planning and permitting timelines, enhance customer service, and strengthen our relationships with municipalities. But for now, I want to turn it over to Interim CIO Flanagan to present the highlights from the year in review. Thank you.
Thank you, and good morning, Your Worship, members of council and staff. 2024 marked the 70th anniversary of Hurricane Hazel. In this devastating storm, 81 people lost their lives. Across the Wasaga watershed, 18 bridges and dams were either damaged or destroyed. This anniversary date is a stark reminder of why conservation authorities like the NBCA exist. Every day, NBCA staff work tirelessly to protect and improve our watershed so that our communities, economies, and wildlife can thrive. They work together so that we have a sustainable watershed that is resilient to climate change and urban growth. In 2024, they navigated through the final changes to the Conservation Authorities Act and created strategies and ideas that would lead the organization forward. They embraced these changes and became more efficient, more innovative, and more impactful. If we could watch the video now, I'll add a few more comments when it is completed. So if we can take a look now.
We're just getting that video up. Thank you.
So thank you for watching that. In 2024, our stewardship and forestry teams worked with businesses, landowners, and funders to restore forests, rivers, streams, and grasslands. They created wetlands and protected roads and parking lots from erosion. And through all of this, they improved water quality and fish habitats. Hundreds of volunteers from our communities helped plant trees, restored native grasslands, and created habitats for species at risk birds. These grasslands will help protect our communities from flooding and capture carbon. Our education team expanded their offerings so more children could connect with nature. They introduced French and Indigenous programming and inspired hundreds of children from all municipalities across our watershed. Together, the regulations, planning, and engineering teams partnered with municipalities to protect people and their properties from natural hazards like flooding and erosion. To be more efficient and to provide better customer service, they reorganized their teams to increase staff resources for both permit and planning review files. On top of collecting water and bug samples from rivers and streams, our watershed science team started to monitor natural heritage in the watershed to see if our development and wetland policies are being effective. Every day, our flood team checks for the possibility of flooding in the watershed. If the possibility is high, they will issue a flood message so our municipalities, schools, first responders, and residents can be prepared. As part of their commitment to improve the safety and enjoyment of NBCA's conservation areas, the lands team worked with community groups to build trails, restore buildings, and remove hazards in our conservation areas, so we can have safe, natural spaces for our residents and visitors to enjoy. Of course, we can't forget the staff who make all of this happen behind the scenes. We have our finance staff who ensure we are using professional accounting practices, our administration and human resources management staff who delivers excellent customer service and transparency, our communications team who shares stories about the amazing work of this organization, and our information management team who provide mapping services and manage mountains of data. It's also important to recognize all of the funders and partners that allow for this work to happen. Our 18 watershed municipalities, like you here in Wasaga Beach, the federal and provincial governments, foundations, and private businesses, and of course, the local residents who provide their land and often dollars for environmental projects are also a critical part of our work. Thank you for your time today and allowing us to share this great story with you.
All right, thank you very much. If there's nothing further from Jonathan or Cheryl, then we'll move to council for questions, and I'll start with Councillor Belanger. Councillor Belanger?
Not really a question, but Cheryl referred to all of the additional support, but I believe that actually the municipal levies is a slightly smaller portion of the total budget, or very close to 50%. So we get a pretty good bang for our buck. I know when we talk about provincial and federal dollars, it's all tax dollars, but there's a tremendous amount of corporate support and other funding that happens as well. So the work is not all on the shoulders of our municipalities. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Belanger. Other questions or comments from members of council? Deputy Mayor Snell.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you for your presentation. It's always great to hear of the amazing work that you do, and it must be a real trick in trying to balance the environmental component, but also to the development piece. And I know that's one area where we've struggled in the past, but I can say I've heard from a few residents since some of the changes that are taking place in the MVCA, and they are seeing permits and applications going through faster and quicker, more clear communication. So I really appreciate that, because that was definitely a struggle in our community before. So thank you for your presentation. And thank you, Councillor Blanchet, for your work. I know I've heard from several residents that were working with you on complicated files, and you are a tireless advocate for folks in our community, and I'm grateful that you're on this committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Snell. Any other questions or comments from members of council? All right, I'll just make a couple of comments. Jonathan and Cheryl, thank you for being here today. It's always good to get an update from the NBCA. It's as the Deputy Mayor said, it's a tough spot to be in. I don't envy you. I don't envy the job that you do in this day and age. I know it's very difficult, but I just wanted to say that I wanted to commend the chair, Jonathan, and Cheryl as interim CAO for the hard work that you have clearly done in just the last couple of months. The change that I am seeing, and again hearing from several residents and some builders, developers, and how things are evolving, if you will, at the NBCA to be more customer centric and to ensure that things are moving along and not just circling the bowl, if you will, I think is commendable. And I know that probably hasn't come easy, and I'm sure there's some adjustments and growing pains with that, with staff and so on. But keep at it. It's going in the right direction, in my opinion, as well, and it's long overdue. And happy to see that there's some leadership there that is working hard. And I think I'd be remiss to say not just Jonathan as chair, but the past chair as well. I think that's where it's really all started, and you've been able to pick up that torch and carry on. So thank you very much. Truly appreciated by our citizens, our taxpayers, and of course this council. It makes our job a little bit easier as well when we're not getting those calls. So thank you. All right. Well, now I do have a recommended motion here that the presentation by Chair Jonathan Scott and interim CAO Cheryl Flanagan, Wasaga Valley Conservation Authority, to the council meeting of March 6, 2025, pertaining to the Wasaga Valley Conservation Authority 2024 year-end review be received for information. Could I have a mover and a seconder for this, please? Moved by Councillor Belanger and seconded by Councillor Timms. All in favor? That carries unanimously. All right, so Madam Clerk, I understand that we're going to mix 7 and 8 together today, so we're now going to move to 8, the delegation. So Jonathan and Cheryl can continue with the presentation with respect to the Wasaga Valley Conservation Authority Township of Oro-Medonte proposal to amalgamate conservation authorities to be received. And so they can get on with their day. We'll move on to number 8.1, and I'll turn it over to Jonathan and Cheryl again.
Well, thank you again, Your Worship, and thank you to yourself and the Deputy Mayor for those kind words. We really appreciate it, because we recognize that our organization is accountable to our member municipalities, and we must always strive for continuous improvement. We've shared our year in review highlights showing the progress we're making to protect the environment, run excellent educational programs for our youth, and steward our land, protecting people and property. But we also recognize that we must make further improvements to our planning and permitting timelines to enhance customer service and to deliver for our customers, whether that's a developer, a business, a municipality. And we presented an action plan to do this that's outlined in our correspondence as well as in this staff report. And I'm really pleased to hear from Your Worship that you're seeing those results in action already. We really are committed to making real, tangible improvements to how we operate to better serve the public. I do want to discuss the proposed amalgamation initiated by Oro-Medonte to essentially merge the Lake Simcoe Region Conservation Authority and NVCA. While NVCA was not consulted on their proposal in advance, we have since met with their mayor, deputy mayor, our council rep, and their staff. And in those conversations, we raised our concerns with why amalgamation is not the right idea. For nearly a century, conservation authorities have been a uniquely Ontario way to protect our environment, deliberately based on the geography and ecology of individual watersheds. Lake Simcoe and Wasaga and Georgian Bay, these are all different bodies of water. They are not the same beast. And simply ramming together two separate watersheds into one new mega authority is contrary to the purpose of how we structure conservation authorities. But I want to make 3 further points that present a bit more of a concern with a business lens. The first is that amalgamation is a distraction from the real solutions to operational challenges. As we've already mentioned, and Your Worship and Deputy Mayor alluded to, we are making improvements to change our service delivery. We're going to have a service delivery review and further improvements as outlined in our action plan. And we don't believe we need an expensive or disruptive restructuring or amalgamation to make operational changes. Instead, we're going to be focusing on results, whereas amalgamation would put us into a bureaucratic debate over governance, jurisdiction, administration that would likely take the rest of this term at a minimum. So the question is, will a proposed amalgamation actually improve service? And right now, there's no evidence that it would. Which brings me to my second point. There's no business case for this, no evidence of benefits, and no analysis. No independent expert study has been undertaken to show that amalgamation would lead to cost savings or better service. No business case has been done, no analysis undertaken. This is simply the definition of putting the cart before the horse. Without doing that business case, we're relying on conjecture that bigger is better. But I think we can also say that there's general evidence that larger municipal entities often in fact mean higher costs, slower approval, certainly less local control, and perhaps even more red tape. NVCA is already acting to improve efficiency, so why gamble on a merger when there's been no clear benefits shown? And my third point, a bigger bureaucracy, presumably based out of Newmarket, is bad for local decision making. A merged authority, as I say, would presumably be headquartered out of Newmarket. LSRCA is the bigger entity as compared to NVCA. But this would pull decision making further away from communities like Wasaga Beach. My own community of Bradford is in both watersheds. So for us, we could perhaps see a benefit if there was a study done. But for most of NVCA's municipalities, such as yours, you're in our jurisdiction, or like Western municipalities in NVCA, they border other conservation authorities and have nothing in common with LSRCA. Again, NVCA was created to serve this watershed, Georgian Bay and the Wasaga River, not to be absorbed into a mega authority where local voices could get lost. LSRCA, for their part, similarly, was created to protect Lake Simcoe, and they actually have special powers for development review under the Lake Simcoe Protection Plan, recognizing that the Ontario government has seen the Lake Simcoe watershed as deserving special protection. So we need conservation authorities to be made by local decision makers, not by an entity managing two different watersheds that would span a huge swath of southern Ontario from the Blue Mountains to east of Lake Scugog. So let me conclude by saying we're focused on making real improvements without the cost and disruption of amalgamation. We need to keep conservation authorities local, responsive, and effective, not hand over control to a perhaps far away larger mega authority. I would respectfully request that you stand with us in opposing this unnecessary amalgamation and instead supporting local decision making. By receiving and, dare I say, endorsing our correspondence today, I also would suggest that you appoint Councillor Belanger to represent you at a future amalgamation meeting if it is called. By doing that, you would be showing that you stand for local control, local environmental protection, and collaborating with us and with all other CAs to make necessary operational improvements we know are underway without this distraction of a multi-year debate over governance or an unproven amalgamation scheme. That's where I'm coming from. I'm happy to take any questions, but I think as a bottom line, we're interested in collaborating with other CAs, like Simcoe and others. And as the Vice Chair of Conservation Ontario, we try through that umbrella organization, much like AMO, to facilitate that collaboration. And I would suggest a collaborative approach to improve operations is far better than getting us into a distractive debate over governance and trying to just say bigger is better. So let me conclude there, but I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much, Jonathan, and I'll look to council for questions. I'll start with Councillor Belanger. Councillor?
Again, thank you through the mayor. Not so much questions, but a few things too. Is I believe the Simcoe County CA has 150 employees. When it comes to budgeting dollars and prioritization, I certainly believe that our watershed would take second place, and the concern would be that a disproportionate amount of the levy would be spent elsewhere. I also wanted to talk to the fact that, and again, I think it was in the letter, but our board of directors were unanimous in not supporting an amalgamation. And the other thing that we talked about a lot, and we talked about all the improvements, but ultimately it's about culture. CAs attract employees that are environmental enthusiasts. And human nature would dictate that when it comes to development, there's a little bit of an attitude of why we can't do things, as opposed to how can we do things mitigating the least negative impact on the economy. And I think that speaks to the leadership we're looking for within the NVCA, and development is going to happen, and we understand that we need to support it. Over the last two budgets, we've made a significant investment into 2 additional planners and 2 additional engineers, and now we just need the leadership to put KPIs and process in place to ensure that we deliver the improvements that we're intending. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Belanger. Other questions or comments from members of council? Seeing none, I just, again, first and foremost, Jonathan, to your comments earlier, you are fortunate to have Councillor Belanger there. He is a worker, that's for sure. The first time or maybe the second time I met Councillor Belanger, he was appointed to my previous council, and his words back then was, "I won't be your smartest councillor, Mr. Mayor, but I will be your hardest working." And I've said this many times. He has proven that over and over and over again. And so, he does his homework, and he may get a little more involved than you like some days, but he's determined to do what is best for the citizens of Wasaga Beach, and we're grateful for that. It's interesting that this has come to us, and I have had conversation, very brief, with the mayor of Oro-Medonte, who I highly respect. But I look at this and say, the reason this is where it is and why it's come here is most likely because of the dissatisfaction, if you will, with the NVCA to this point. And I think what's important for this council to note is that we now have in place, and the last chair and this chair, and our interim CAO here. I don't know any better way to say it except they get it. And they're about getting it done and moving things forward, and they're making these changes. And I think that's why it's important that we do receive all of this for information, but that we just give it some time right now to see the hard work and these changes rooted, if you will, within, no pun intended, but within the Conservation Authority of Nottawasaga Valley, because I'll tell you, if you talked to me a year ago, I'd say no. Let's do this amalgamation thing. We've got to find a solution to the problems. Today, I'm a very different opinion of that at this point. To say let's wait and see, and if these positive changes are continuing, and this type of attitude towards the environmental stewardship as a whole continue, then I think we're going to be in really great shape. And so I urge council to be patient at this point. So again, Jonathan and Cheryl, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it. We appreciate the update, and we appreciate your thoughts there, Jonathan, on this amalgamation. I think that's important for council to hear, to have a better understanding as to where we should be considering, or what we should be considering moving forward. But I think at this point, as I say, let's wait and see, and I'm confident in conversations I've had with Councillor Belanger and with members of your team that we're heading in the right direction. It's been a while coming, but we're getting there, that's for sure. So we do have a motion, if there's no other comments or questions, that the presentation, that the delegation by Chair Jonathan Scott of the Nottawasaga Valley Conservation Authority, re-item Nottawasaga Valley Conservation Authority / Township of Oro-Medonte proposal to amalgamate conservation authorities be received for information. Could I have a mover and a seconder for this, please? Moved by Councillor Belanger, seconded by Councillor DeLeo. All in favor? That carries unanimously. Jonathan, Cheryl, thank you very much. Have a great day. Don't work too hard.
Thank you, Your Worship.
All right, we'll now go back then to item number 7, which is presentations. And item number 7.2 is the 2024 Fire Department year-end report. And we'll turn to our amazing Fire Chief, Fire Chief Williams, for this report and update. Chief,
Sorry, Your Worship, before we move on, I just want to recognize that the correspondence from NVCA was also pulled as part of this delegation. So based on the discussion, I'm going to recommend that we just receive that information, that correspondence for information at this time. And if we can get a mover and seconder.
Okay, I was going to go back to that after we finish 2 and then finish up 8, but if you want to do it now, that's fine. We can do that. So before the chief moves forward, we will go back to number 8, delegations. And the February 28, 2025 Nottawasaga Valley Conservation Authority Township of Oro-Medonte proposal to amalgamate conservation authorities. And the recommended motion by the clerk is that it be received for information at this time. Any questions or comments on that? We're voting to receive the information. Councillor Belanger?
Okay, I'm a little confused because 11.2 was also Wasaga Valley response to the Oro-Medonte letter of amalgamation proposal, and I wanted to, as chair, Jonathan Scott had indicated, I wanted to put a motion on the floor that we support that letter and that we do appoint myself in the case that this ever comes to a vote.
All right, I'll turn back to our clerk. Sorry, 11.2 was removed from the agenda as I read the agenda here today. Madam Clerk, what I'm hearing is that should this come to a vote at some time in the future by the communities that we appoint to Councillor Belanger to represent us in that case, do we want to just amend this motion to include that?
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you. So the correspondence that was pulled was from the NVCA and seeking their support to not support Oro-Medonte's amalgamation of the two authorities. So if
Right,
Councillor Belanger would like to table a motion to support the NVCA, we can have staff direction to send the correspondence to Oro-Medonte, NVCA, LSRCA, and their member municipalities stating that the town of Wasaga Beach does not support the amalgamation at this time.
But my thoughts are that it's that item fell under correspondence items in 11 and 11.2, so we should probably deal with that under correspondence, no?
We pulled forward 11.2 due to the delegation, so it could all be dealt with at one time, Your Worship.
Okay, so then we'll deal with it here. So, Madam Clerk, I'm going to ask you to read the recommended motion then to include that, so as that we can make sure everyone here is clear on that.
Thank you, and through you, Your Worship, that the correspondence received from NVCA opposing the Township of Oro-Medonte proposal to amalgamate conservation authorities be received. That staff be directed to send correspondence to Oro-Medonte, NVCA, LSRCA, and their member municipalities indicating the town of Wasaga Beach does not support the amalgamation at this time.
All right, you've heard the question. Any questions or comments? Councillor Belanger?
Can we just add further that I be appointed as a representative in the case of a vote on amalgamation?
We can do that. I think it's already clear you are our member representing us within the NVCA, and it would be only prudent that happened. We can add that, I'm sure, Madam Clerk.
Absolutely noted, Your Worship.
All right. So noted that we've added the councillor to represent us in that case. Deputy Mayor Snell, did I see your hand?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship, through you. I'm just a little bit concerned here. You know, in our previous discussion on this matter, it was sort of a wait and see holding pattern. So I'm not sure if this is something that we want to take a strong position on in this time in terms of sending out correspondence. I, of course, fully support Councillor Belanger being assigned to be on that task force should it come to fruition. But I'd be curious on your thoughts, sir, on whether or not how you feel about the matter.
Well, as I said, I think at this point we're probably at a wait and see. I think we're seeing great improvements. And I think if I understand the motion correctly, it really does leave us in a wait and see. We're not supporting the amalgamation at this point, but we're not saying no. We're saying let's give it some time. And so I'm comfortable as it is, unless our clerk has anything to add.
Thank you, Your Worship. The correspondence would be indicating that it's at this time. The Oro-Medonte will be setting up a meeting for municipalities that are interested, so I would state that we wouldn't be participating because we're not in support at this time.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that Oro-Medonte may very well move forward with this and hold meetings with respect to that, I think it's only prudent that we would have our councillor representing us from the NVCA to attend those. So I don't think we want to be in a situation where we're saying we're not going to participate. We certainly need to participate so we know what's happening, what's being said, what's being done. We're in a, I think we should be in a wait and see, and wait and see what the what Oro Medonte does with this as well. I'm sure Oro Medonte is waiting for responses like this from all the municipalities that they sent this correspondence to before they decide whether or not to move it forward. I'll look to Councillor Belanger, has his hand up, and then I'm going to go to CAO McNeil. Councillor?
Yes, I just want to point out, as was the delegation in the presentation, is that the negative impacts of amalgamation, in our opinion, far outweigh the benefits. We clearly understand the dissatisfaction related to planning and permitting and timelines, and we are taking affirmative action to correct those issues. I think to a far greater extent than Oro Medonte. So when you look at the scope of how amalgamation would impact all the work of a CA, there is just, in our opinion, no upside to amalgamation.
Thank you, Councillor Belanger. CAO McNeil?
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I would agree with those comments, and if there are discussions hosted by Oro, I would strongly recommend that Wasaga Beach be at the table. Whether or not you support or don't support, you want to be at the table so your voice can be heard. If council does want to send some correspondence, my recommendation would simply be to say that we are seeing positive progress, we are seeing changes being made, and amalgamation could be premature at this time. I think saying premature is important because it doesn't close the door if things change in the future in a negative fashion. But I do agree that we are seeing absolute positive change happening today.
All right, thank you, Andrew. So, Madam Clerk, do you want to adjust that motion and read it again?
Absolutely. So I believe, based on the discussion, that staff will be directed to send correspondence to Oro Medonte and MBCA indicating that we will be present at the meetings representing Wasaga Beach. Do you want to continue to state that we're not going to support the amalgamation at this time?
Well, I don't think we are supporting it or not supporting it. I think we're simply saying we're not prepared to move forward at this point. We want to wait and see how things go. If Oro Medonte should decide to push a vote, then clearly we wouldn't be in support at this time. But I think it's going to take some time for Oro Medonte to get all this correspondence back, all the information they are going to require to determine whether or not they want to push forward. And that's just how I would look at this if I was leading this. But if we want to say today, and I can look to members of council, that we just simply don't support it at this time because we believe it's premature, we could do that as well. I see Councillor Belanger is waving his hand frantically there. Councillor?
Well, I just think that the CAO's comments to indicate in the communication to Oro Medonte that we are seeing improvement and that we believe amalgamation is premature at this time, that verbiage could be included in the motion.
Yeah, and that also basically says that at this point we don't support amalgamation. I mean, it's pretty clear, I think, through that. Madam Clerk. Oh, I'm sorry. Deputy Mayor Snell has her hand up. Deputy Mayor Snell?
Thank you, Worship. I was going to say the exact same thing. I think the way that CAO McNeil worded it is very clear in regards to the fact that we are seeing some positive change and that we want to give it time to work its way through. But it still gives us an opportunity to pivot should we need to if we're not seeing the results that we're hoping for.
Excellent point. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Snell. All right. Are you clear now, Madam Clerk, or clear as mud?
Absolutely, Your Worship. I have it all written down, and we have the additional motion for Councillor Belanger to represent the town at that table and discussion. And we will have a recorded vote on this one because it was a pulled item. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. So you've heard it then. You've heard the question. The clerk has made the recommended additions and deletions with respect to the CAO's recommendation. Could I have a mover and a seconder for this, please? Moved by Councillor Belanger, seconded by Councillor Timms. And I'll ask the clerk to take the vote, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Councillor Belanger.
In favor?
Councillor DeLeo.
In favor.
Deputy Mayor Snell.
In favor?
Councillor Timms.
In favor.
Councillor White,
In favor.
Mayor Smith.
In favor.
Carries unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, that took some work, Pete, but we're back to you. And the floor is yours, sir.
Oh, there we go. Good morning, Your Worship, members of council. I don't have a fancy video to go with my year-end report, but I do have a presentation. So I'd ask that the clerk's department help me bring that up on screen. Perfect. Thank you very much. So today I'll be providing council with a year-end review presentation as part of the requirements of the fire department establishing and regulating bylaw. Next slide, please. I'd like to just start by saying that I'm very proud of the women and men who represent the Wasaga Beach Fire Department, and I do want to thank them for all of their contributions to our community during 2024. Last year, I feel that our department demonstrated a commitment to innovation, collaboration, and strategic planning, and I hope to share some examples of this during this presentation. Next slide, please. So our service and programs are delivered in accordance with the 3 lines of defense as adopted by the Ontario Fire Marshal's Office. And these are number 1, education and prevention, number 2, fire safety standards and enforcement, and number 3, emergency response. Next slide, please. During 2024, we had many significant achievements. To name a few, the town and the Wasaga Beach Professional Firefighters Association negotiated a 3-year collective agreement. We also completed the town's first ever community risk assessment and fire master plan. We renewed key agreements for fire dispatch and technical rescue response with the City of Barrie, and we procured and began implementing a new RMS system named First Due. We replaced personal protective equipment, including new protective hoods, to promote firefighter cancer prevention, and we achieved 100% NFPA certification for firefighter training level 1 and 2, as well as hazardous material response. And I will outline other achievements as we move through the slides. Next slide, please. To fill a gap within our community programming, our fire prevention inspector obtained certification as a car seat technician and is now able to provide free guidance and installation assistance to new parents and grandparents in our community. We welcome Solicitor General Kersner and MPP Saunderson in late summer to advocate for fire safety in our community. And we've applied to numerous grants that will hopefully help us with capital purchase of equipment. Our fire prevention teams attend schools on a regular basis, including Fire Prevention Week. And we partnered with Faith Missionary Church in the County of Simcoe to open an overnight winter warming center. Since opening the center on January the 13th, the center has welcomed guests over 340 times with an average of 7.8 individuals per evening. The department also remained active with a number of community partnerships while providing support to organizations such as our local food bank, My Friend's House, Special Olympics, Breast Cancer Awareness, Movember, Shop with a Cop, and more. Next slide, please. The Wasaga Beach Fire Department responded to 2,179 calls for service in 2024, and we take an all-hazardous approach to community protection by responding to many types of calls, including fires, hazardous materials, motor vehicle collisions, land and water-based rescues, medical response, and much more. Next slide, please. This slide represents the breakdown of calls in which we attended to in 2024, as well as it shows the increased number of calls through the years 2020 to 2024. You will note that there is a reduction in monthly calls starting in November of 2024. This coincides with the introduction of the medical priority dispatch system that, in part, ensures that fire department resources are being appropriately utilized for medical response. Thus far, the impact includes an estimated decrease of 20% of the medical calls that are being directed to the Wasaga Beach Fire Department. Next slide, please. The Fire Prevention Division is a rapidly growing area since Council approved the hiring of our very first Fire Prevention Inspector in 2023. In 2024, we provided 385 fire and life safety inspections, as well as provided 171 hours of community outreach programming. Fire education, inspections, and enforcements are key efforts that aim to prevent fire-related deaths and damage to property within our community. Next slide, please. Firefighters are required to train regularly throughout the year. This typically includes 3 evenings a month, as well as additional assignments for full-time firefighters while they're on duties. Shown here is a pumper operator certification course, some cross training that we conducted in the summer with the Coast Guard, and a fire prevention training night at one of the recent River Dragons games. Next slide, please. The municipality has once again achieved compliance for our emergency management program. And one highlight of this year's effort included a significant emergency preparedness training event, as well as public open house involving the Canadian Armed Forces, County of Simcoe Paramedic Services, Ontario Provincial Police, Health Unit, as well as the County of Simcoe Emergency Management Team and Social Services staff. Next slide, please. Our operational budget for 2024 included $4.6 million with a capital investment of $574,000. Shown in this slide is a photo of some of our specialized ice water rescue training in Georgian Bay, as well as the town's first poverty reduction roundtable event, which brought together 57 community leaders representing 29 local and regional organizations. Next slide, please. Included on this slide are the 2024 team members, which include our administration staff, as well as career and volunteer firefighters. For 2024, our staff included 3 administration, 1 prevention, 21 career suppression, and 16 volunteer suppression firefighters. Next slide, please. We had a couple of volunteer retirements during 2024, which prompted the need for a volunteer recruit drive. There were 3 career firefighters who were awarded their exemplary service medals from the provincial and federal government, as well as we awarded 3 special awards last year, including the Volunteer Firefighter of the Year Award, Skills Competition Award, and Fire Chief Commendation Award. Next slide, please. As we look towards 2025, we will be hosting Camp Molly, which is a free 4-day camp dedicated to inspiring young female and non-binary youth aged 15 to 18 by showcasing firefighting as a valuable and rewarding career. We will also complete the implementation of First Due RMS program. We will deploy 2 new personal watercraft to replace our existing water rescue boat, which has reached its end of life cycle. We will begin a 5-year cycle to replace all of our radios to ensure that our teams always have reliable communications during the emergencies. We will aim to improve and enhance firefighter mental health and cancer prevention strategies by adopting additional best practices. And finally, we will begin to implement the recommendations found in the 2024 Fire Master Plan. Next slide, please. Similar to all town departments, we continue to feel the impact of growth in our community. The attached chart shows the significant call increases that we have been experiencing over the past 10 years. Next slide, please. Your Worship, I would like to thank the numerous town departments who provide support to the Wasaga Beach Fire Department on a daily basis, as well as the CAO's office and all members of council for their continued support. And with that, this concludes our presentation. I'm happy to take any questions or comments you might have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chief. Great presentation, and I'll now look to members of council for questions or comments. All right, seeing none, which is surprise. Oh, I do see Councillor Tim. Sorry, Councillor. Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. It just took me a minute to find my raise hand button. I just want to thank the Chief for the incredible achievements that the department makes year after year, really. But I think it's really important to acknowledge that this year there were some really significant achievements, like the opening of the warming center and the collaboration with the Armed Forces, OPP, and paramedics to deliver the emergency management exercise. And for those of us who got to witness that and be a bit of a fly on the wall, that was very impressive. What the public didn't see beyond the open house was incredible work together in difficult situations in the woods, and we're very lucky that we have the leadership that will put something like that together. I'm excited that the beginning of a conversation with the community took place through the Poverty Roundtable, and apart from the warming center, Chief, are there any further actions that are going to begin in 2025 from that Poverty Roundtable?
Thank you, Councillor Timms, and through the chair. Yes, we will continue our work with the poverty reduction, work that we started out in the 2025 budget. We did allocate funds, $10,000 from our casino revenue funding to allow for startup costs at the warming center, as well as we'll look at what areas in town we're able to use some of that effort going forward. We haven't committed yet to hosting an additional roundtable this year, but I believe that's a discussion that we'll probably be having very shortly and understanding what the next steps for 2025 will be.
Thank you, Chief. We really appreciate the hard work and dedication of your entire department. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Timms. Please remember to put your hand back down. Councillor Belanger.
Yes, thank you through the mayor. I just want to also pass on my congratulations, but also just to indicate that when we look at leadership within our town staff, a good indication is the participation in non-paid volunteer work and the turnouts of your department on so many community initiatives that certainly support the most vulnerable citizens is just outstanding. And I thank you and your team for that.
Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you, Councillor Belanger. Any other questions or comments? All right, as I said, Chief, excellent presentation. Thank you so much for bringing the public up to speed on what it is that your department has done, and some really impressive numbers, no doubt. Good to see that our calls for service are declining because of the new dispatch system. Clearly, that shows that it's working, and although I know there's improvement and more room to be had, we're heading in the right direction. And with respect to the firefighters and your team, as I've said many times, the town of Wasaga Beach, we couldn't be more proud of your department and what it is you do, and the men and women of that department. And I, keep us safe and know that when we pick up that phone for help, that they're going to be there and be there quickly. And again, always great to see that the amount of females joining that team is increasing, and that's always great to see as well. So we do have a motion that the report titled 2024 Fire Department Year-End Report to the Council meeting of March 6, 2025 be received for information. No further questions or comments. I will ask for a mover and a seconder for this, please. Moved by Deputy Mayor Snell and seconded by Councillor White. All in favor? That carries unanimously. Thank you very much, Chief. Item number 8, of course, is delegations, and we have looked after that section already. So moving on to item number 9, government relations. We have none today. Item number 10, staff reports. The following reports have been pulled and moved to matters for consideration to be voted on separately: 10.3, 10.6, 10.8, and 10.9. Are there any other comments from council or staff with respect to the consent reports? All right, seeing none, the recommended motion is that the following consent list items under staff reports and all the recommendations contained therein be adopted, excluding items pulled and moved to matters for consideration to be voted on separately. Could I have a mover and a seconder for this, please? Moved by Councillor White, seconded by Councillor DeLeo. All in favor? It carries unanimously. Thank you. On to item number 11, correspondence. And we have dealt with 11.2 of this already. And so we have no items, other items pulled in 11. So there are nothing for further consideration. So the following consent list items under correspondence be received for information, excluding items 11.2, which we have dealt with and voted on, which was considered and voted on separately under the delegations. Mover and a seconder for this, please. Moved by Councillor Belanger, seconded by Councillor Timms. All in favor? That carries unanimously. And on to item number 12, minutes of boards and committee meetings. We have nothing pulled there. So the council list items under minutes of boards and committees be received for information. Mover and a seconder for this, please. Moved by Deputy Mayor Snell, seconded by Councillor White. All in favor? That carries unanimously. And on to item number 13 then, matters for consideration. First item is the resident and non-resident use of recreation programming, and this was pulled by Deputy Mayor Snell. Deputy Mayor Snell?
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you, I just wanted to just share a comment. I'm really happy to see this report come forward. It was some time ago that it was requested of staff to look into this. opportunity, as the way I see it. Our residents are the taxpayers that pay for these amazing services and facilities. And it was my opinion that, especially in the high demand programs that we see in our numbers through Director Rose's great reports in regards to the pickleball and day camps and stuff that are really in demand, that our residents should have first priority in being able to book those spots. So I'm really supportive of this report, and I like the recommendations and the rollout plans. But if we can maybe turn it to the director if he has any additional comments that he would like to share or reflect on. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Snell. Director Rose?
Thank you, Your Worship. And through you, if I can just quickly summarize, this is an opportunity for locals. If council does pass the motion presented today, we will give a 1 week advantage, and that is a very long time. I want people to feel confident that, especially given the online format for the majority of our registrations, we should, with a robust communication plan, be able to ensure that people aren't forgotten. As you can see further into the report, waiting list numbers are roughly 10% in the highest use programs. And we seem to see doubling and tripling of opportunities. People look for their first, second, and third choices. And I am confident that the vast majority of our participants are finding a spot, and this 1 week delay process will ensure that local residents are always given the advantage. And that's about it, unless there are further questions.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Chris. I see Councillor White has his hand up. Councillor White?
Thank you very much, Your Worship. I just wanted to say thanks, Chris, for everything here. You and I have had some conversations offline around this to keep it easy for council today, but the increased access for the girls hockey and all these different things that we've been working on behind the scenes, definitely a great for our recreation program. So I just want to say thanks for all your hard work on this file and the ones that we've been working on behind the scenes.
Great. Thank you, Councillor. Any other questions or comments? I've seen none. I think what's important here, great news for citizens of Wasaga Beach to have that advantage. And for those listening or may listen in future, please get this out to all your family and friends and make sure that, what's most important is that it'd be nice to have every resident of Wasaga Beach signed up for our online correspondence, so as that they get this information in advance and they know that there is an advantage to living here as opposed to not living here when it comes to these programs. And as we chatted about in our meeting, Chris, especially when it comes to summertime and camps and daycare, where families are constantly struggling to find those types of services for the kids in the summer and throughout the rest of the year for that matter. But, you're right. 1 week is a long time. And although many would argue it isn't, but it is a significant amount of time that if you're signed up to the town's emailing information portal, that you'll get a reminder and you'll be able to get out there and get signed up, hopefully, and be successful in securing a spot on many of these programs where you may not be otherwise. So great thought process by you, Chris, and the team to bring that in, and you've clearly heard council's wishes loud and clear, and we appreciate that. So we do have a motion that the recommended motion that the report titled Resident and Non-Resident Use of Recreation Programming to the council meeting of March 6, 2025 be received, and that council direct staff to implement delayed registration dates for non-resident users of all recreation programming, starting with the release of the fall and winter 2025-2026 recreation guide due out in August of 2025. And I know that we did have some discussion on this as well, where this is the guide for 2025-2026, and staff are looking at something possibly to get in place for the summer programs as well. But we'll have to wait and see what staff come back with on that. So you have heard the question. Could I have a mover and a seconder for this, please? Moved by Deputy Mayor Snell, seconded by Councillor White. All in favor? That carries unanimously.
Individual, isn't that individual?
I'm sorry, it is. Thank you very much, Councillor. We will ask the clerk to call that question.
No
My
problem.
apologies.
Thank you, and through you, Your Worship, Councillor Belanger,
In favor?
Councillor DeLeo,
In favor.
Deputy Mayor Snell,
In favor?
Councillor Timms,
In favor.
Councillor White,
In favor.
Mayor Smith,
In favor.
carries unanimously.
Thank you very much. I'm glad that that carried unanimously recorded as opposed to otherwise. Moving on to the next item is the 2025 Municipal Grant Allocation Program. This was pulled by Councillor Belanger, but I'm going to ask our CFO, Jocelyn Lee, to speak to this first. Jocelyn, are you with us? There you are. Good morning. The floor is yours, and I don't think you're muted, so you're good to go.
Thank you, Your Worship, and good morning, members of council. I just wanted to speak a little bit about the grant program. This is the first year that the program's been changed. The way we allocate the grants, we are now using a working group, staff working group, to do those allocations. And part of the focus of the working group was on the eligibility criteria that's outlined in the policy. And so the capital works projects is what the grant is meant to help support. And we had been receiving several grants that were focused on support for operating costs. So with that as the main focus of the working group, it did change the number of applicants that were approved this year relative to prior years. And that has left us with a surplus in our grant budget line. The main purpose for trying to focus on the eligibility of the criteria is to make sure that we're applying those funds as was intended under the policy. And so there are some benefits that come from some clubs that are outside of the town, but it still benefits the members of our community. Those clubs are not receiving the grants this year. So that's your main difference. And one of the things we did is we did not show a list of all of those applicants that did not receive the funding, as we are trying to keep that discussion in with the working group. They go through all of those applications, that's done privately, and that decision is made. And again, they're using the policy to guide that decision. So that just gives you a little bit of an overview of what changed this year, why we have a bit of a surplus, and why we didn't list all of the grant applicants to provide some privacy for those applications, and to also not get into starting to weigh out the value and the different merits of the applications here at the council table. It was meant to be done at the staff working group level. So that gives you a little bit of an overview. And Your Worship, if you permit, I would like to ask our finance manager, Catherine, to speak to some of the process and the way that the group looked at this, if that's suitable for you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jocelyn. Welcome, Catherine, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you to members of council. So as part of the grant application review process, the following steps were taken this year. So I received all of the applications and ensured they were all complete. For applicants who received funds in prior years, it was confirmed that they submitted their 2024 funding reports. As part of the grant program working group, we reviewed the applications in the applicant's intended use for the funding and ensured it aligned with the criteria of the policy. The working group then decided on recommended amounts based on the qualifications provided in their applications and the types of organization that was requesting the grant. One of the examples of the working group's approach was to give all churches the same amount, which remained or kept it all consistent for all of the churches. Thank you, Your Worship. That concludes my comments on the process.
Thank you very much, Catherine. Anything further, Jocelyn? All right, you're muted, but I think what you're saying is no, we're good, and that's sufficient.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes.
All right, thank you. All right, we'll move to questions and comments, and this was pulled by Councillor Belanger and Councillor Timms, and so I'll let Councillor Belanger go I'll go to Councillor Timms and then the rest of council. Councillor Belanger?
Yes, through the mayor. I have some concerns. Like, I certainly appreciate the staff review, but I think to a great extent this cuts council out of the decision making altogether because we're not aware of who applied. I think if we go back to the benefit of the grant program is, generally speaking, we can get a lot of volunteer assistance in doing very good things for our community at a very low cost by providing a grant. And communication is very difficult. So we made some significant changes, and although we probably did a good job at trying to communicate to all these organizations the level of understanding of what they needed to change to effectively request a grant that would be approved, could be some misunderstanding. I think there might be a benefit at some point in time of bringing these groups together and having a session on grant application and approval. But whether it's done publicly or privately, I think it would be a benefit to council to view the applications, even if we're not involved in the decision-making process. We may also be able to contact an organization and give them some guidance and suggestions as to putting in an effective application. At this point in time, I don't know if and I may have forgotten, but whether the full request was granted. Certainly, I have no idea of the organizations that made application and were not approved at all. So I just think that I like the idea of the staff working group. I just think that council should have a little more involvement than we currently have. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councillor. And I think it's important to note that council asked for this new process. We wanted to change this way. We asked for it. We now have it. And so I'll go to Councillor Timms and the rest of council for comments. But we asked for this change for very specific reasons, and we now have what we asked for. So, Councillor Timms.
Thank you, Your Worship. I reached out to the CFO and asked for a little bit more information because I was curious also at how we landed with the 11 applicants that were granted and 11 that weren't. I'm really pleased to see that there's some clear criteria in place about what is grantable, because I found as a counselor looking at that list and different levels of expertise from the organizations in filling out their applications, that it was pretty hard to do it and understand fairly how the money should be dispersed. And then, of course, it was all put together and averaged out, and the money was granted in previous years. So I do like this process. I'm like Councillor Belanger. I would have liked a bit more information. And I also think it's important, as someone who used to apply for grants, that the ones that are not successful get some sort of communication explaining why they were not successful. And, that's probably something that you're planning on doing anyways, but that is a key part. I really think Councillor Belanger's idea of a information meeting prior to grant application is also a very good idea. And perhaps having one council rep on that working group, just throwing that out there. But those were some of the things that were going around in my mind when I had a look at the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Timms. Deputy Mayor Snell.
Thank you, Worship, through you. That was sort of my sentiment as well. We did ask for this, and I remember Councillor Timms and I had had discussion in the past couple of years, just with the process seemed clunky and convoluted and not very transparent or accountable to those that were doing the application, especially when it came to reporting how they did their funds. I like that it's sitting with staff personally. It eliminates any potential conflict of interest for any council member that may be supportive or a part of these organizations, as we're all very active in the community. I think it also keeps it completely nonpartisan. You know, it's just staff making the decision, so there's no benefit or favors or anything like that that could potentially be thrown at us. I also was concerned that historically, it seemed a lot of these organizations got into a habit of reliant on this money for operational purposes. And I think that's a slippery slope to get into. You know, folks have to be independent and self-reliant. There's too much need. And as things become financially challenging in our community, we need to ensure that even more so that this money is going to serving our residents. So personally, I really support the process. It's not an easy one to be on that committee, I'm sure. I think staff have got some feedback to maybe give a little more fulsome background information for council's benefit, but I think we need to pick and stick. We can't be on both sides of the fence and ask to be a part of it, but then also ask to stay out of it. So that's sort of my 2 cents on that one. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Snell. Excellent points. I like the term pick and stick. CAO McNeil.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you to Deputy Mayor. I just wanted to agree with one of the comments that you just made, and I think it's very important that Council hear this. Multiple applications, part of their rationale for applying was so that they could use taxpayer dollars to keep their membership fees low. I get it, and it's a nice thing to do, but that's not really the role of the grant program, because then what we're doing is we're operationally subsidizing organizations. That has never been the intent. So that's where a bit of arm's length distance from council can be a good thing. And I think what we can do is circle back with all the organizations that were not successful and explain why, and maybe give them some tips for next time. Here's the things that you might want to think about, because it is a different approach. And we can also add more information in future to reports as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew, for that addition. Any other questions or comments? All right, seeing none, yeah, I'll just reiterate, you know, this is what council asked for. It took the politics out of it, if you will, which I think is extremely important. It does, you know, now meet the clear policy. There's no deviation from policy or what is expected. I do think it's important and agree that we should get back not only to those who are successful, but the ones that aren't. And we do have a couple of organizations that apply on a regular basis that offer a service to many of our residents outside of our community. I'll use curling as an example of this. You know, there are a curling club in Stayner. There's one in Elmvale. And I think probably 50% of their members are close to it, probably are from Wasaga Beach. And the members pay, I'm sure, to belong and to participate. But, you know, for those organizations to approach the municipality for support, I fully understand and don't see that as a negative or a bad thing, because it would certainly cost our municipality a heck of a lot more money if we had to build a curling rink, for example, in Wasaga Beach or any of those other types of services. So this does not, I think, stop any organization from approaching the municipality for support for different reasons, but it makes this particular process clear and concise. And I want to commend staff for doing a great job at looking after this and making sure that all policies and procedures are followed. So thank you. We do have a recommended motion that the report titled 2025 Municipal Grants Allocation Program to the Council meeting of March 6, 2025 be received, and that the Council approve the awarding of 11 grants to not-for-profit organizations totaling $23,500 as outlined in this report. No further questions or comments. Could I have a mover and a seconder for this, please? Moved by Councillor Belanger, seconded by Councillor DeLeo. All in favor?
Sorry, I had a question. I just had a comment that we.
But Councillor, sorry,
you said you called me as motioning. I was you didn't recognize my hand as when you said, is there further questions or comments?
Okay, Councillor, go ahead. So in future, sorry, Councillor.
All I'm going to
Councillor,
say.
one second. In future, if councillors have a question, please use the hand within the system. All right, go ahead, Councillor.
No, I'm just going to say, based on the CAO's comments as to what he intends to do with the process, I'm in favor. So,
all right. Thank you, Councillor. All right, any other comments then? Or questions? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, sorry, could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Councillor DeLeo, seconded by Councillor White. Madam Clerk, call the question, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Councillor Blanchet.
in favor.
Councillor DeLeo.
In favor.
Deputy Mayor Snell.
In favor?
Councillor Timms.
In favor.
Councillor White.
In favor.
Mayor Smith.
In favor?
That carries unanimously.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. And next item on the agenda is the Committee and Local Board Appointment Policy. And this was pulled by by Deputy Mayor Snell and Councillor Timms. But I'm first going to look to our Deputy Clerk, Barb, to speak to this. Barb, our birthday girl.
Thank you, Your Worship. And 33, just to get it right. No. Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much. Just speaking with regards to the proposed policy. So just give me a minute. It's not popping. It's doing something funky.
And Barb, we can hardly hear you, so if you could try and speak a little closer to the mic.
Okay, thank you very much. So staff are proposing amendments to the existing policy that will assist in clarifying, streamlining, and navigating the recruitment and selection process, including what we're looking at is renaming the policy to better identify the key aspects of the policy, aligning the eligibility and qualification of members with the interests of the town, combining sections. So right now we have appointment process for new term of council and public process for during the term of council. So we've combined those into one. We enhance the roles and responsibility of the selection committee when reviewing and recommending candidates for council consideration. And we changed the name from selection committee to recruitment committee within the policy. Reinforcing the commitment of members to town policies and procedures once appointed. And we also removed the requirement to advertise for committee members' opportunities within the newspaper. This will reduce costs and also eliminate delays in advertising vacancies.
All right, thank you very much, Barb. Any further comments? Anything further, Barb?
I believe that'll be it for myself.
All right, Nicole, anything to add to that?
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you. The Clerk's Division, extremely happy with the hard work and the dedication of our committee members. Their contributions are truly supporting council priorities within this term. This is really a good policy amendment to ensure that we're streamlining that onboarding process for committee members and truly reinforcing their commitment to the town's code of conduct and the policies that we have adopted as a town. So we just want to ensure that this policy streamlines that process, and we're going to be using the training portal to really onboard the committee members moving forward. So this will allow and ensure that everybody understands their responsibilities moving forward.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. And this was pulled by Deputy Mayor Snell and Councillor Timms. Deputy Mayor Snell.
Thank you, Your Worship, through you. I'm really happy to see some of the pieces tightened up around this policy, especially as it comes to code of conduct. I think, with that onboarding process to really flush out what they are signing up for so that they clearly understand that they are held to the same account that we are as council, that staff is as well in terms of the messaging and narrative that's out in the community, that they are a part of a paddle in the water, not sitting in a boat with it across their laps or working backwards. So I look forward to that piece really fulsomely getting fleshed out with some accountability as well, where they have to sign off on something that says that they understand this and that should they not adhere to the policy, that different actions will be taken as a result. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Snell. Any comments from staff to those comments or questions? All right, seeing none. Next was Councillor Timms. Councillor?
Thank you, Your Worship. And I think that some of the issues that I wanted to make mention have been brought up already. I'm very happy to hear about the training portal, because I was going to suggest that, with 6 big documents to read and fully understand, I think there was some opportunity there that we could have made sure that people really did understand a little bit better. It's a very important role, I think, as a member of an advisory committee to bring expert advice for council consideration. And I think it's so important that there's a good understanding of what those roles are. And again, the terms of reference are so important to each and every one of the committees. So I thank the work of the clerks. I thank the clerk's office and department for doing the work that you have done. And I know that coming from the Tourism and Economic Development Advisory Committee, we've asked for a number of changes this year as we have evolved, and it's put a lot of work on the clerk's department. So I do thank you for obliging us. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Timms. Councillor Belanger.
Yes, I hope that this isn't out of line, and I don't know what our latitude is, but obviously we could have individuals that are on a committee that, given the code of conduct, that they use members of immediate family to possibly put out negative messaging related to the town. And I just wondered if the policy addresses that, or even if we're able to address that in any way.
I believe it does through the code of conduct and the terms of reference, but I'll look to our clerk. Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Your Worship. You're absolutely correct. So the Code of Conduct speaks to adherence to municipal policies and procedures. So within that, that is already indicated in the Code of Conduct.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and that code of conduct and terms of reference, etc., none of this is new. I think it's important to point that out for the public's information, that there's always been this information, and there's always been a code of conduct that has been the same as council for members of committees, etc. And so it's just important to note that this is not a drastic change. It's a matter of us tightening it all up to make sure that these members are fully aware, fully trained, onboarded in better than they have been in the past, and that there's much less room then for any confusion. Other questions or comments from members of council? All right, seeing none, do have a recommended motion that the report titled Committee of Local Board Appointment Policy to Council Meeting of March 6, 2025 be received, and that the committee and local board appointment policy 1 to 6 attached to this report be approved, and that bylaw 2023-28 being a bylaw to adopt a policy for the public appointments of council to advisory committees, local boards, and external boards and committees be repealed. Any questions or comments? Mover and a seconder for this, please. Moved by Deputy Mayor Snell, seconded by Councillor Timms. Madam Clerk, call the vote.
Thank you, Your Worship. Councillor Belanger.
In favor?
Councillor DeLeo.
In favor.
Deputy Mayor Snell.
In favor?
Councillor Timms.
In favor.
Councillor White.
In favor.
Mayor Smith.
In favor?
Carries unanimously.
Thank you very much. All right, moving on then to the Beachfront Agreement of Purchase and Sale, Sunray Group, and this is pulled by Councillor Belanger. So Councillor Belanger, go ahead.
Yes, thank you through the mayor. I just wanted some clarification on the ability to sell the property after a 10-year period. So if our CAO could speak to that, I'd appreciate it.
Absolutely. Through Mr. Mayor, would council like me to walk you through the overall deal or just answer that specific question?
I think walking us through the entire deal is never a bad thing. It's open and transparent. So whatever we can share at this point publicly, feel free to do so. Andrew?
Absolutely. Yeah, and thank you for the opportunity. And thank you for the question, Councillor Belanger. I wanted to share with Council, I'm absolutely thrilled to be bringing this forward today. I think this is absolutely one of the most significant economic development things that this municipality will do for decades. As a kid in Wasaga Beach, I think I was 9 years old when the capstan was torn down. And for those doing the math in your head, that makes me 1 year away from the seniors discount at Shoppers Drug Mart. But every great beach community in the world typically has a main hotel on their beachfront. It is a key anchor, it is a key tourism draw, but it is also a key element for locals. We're on the verge of bringing that back to Wasaga Beach. Not many of us remember the capstan or the grand hotels that used to be here. My recollection's a little fuzzy, but I do remember the architecture and walking by them. So excited to be bringing that back. The land area that is being offered for sale to Sunray is within a community improvement plan area. Why that is important. This was identified almost a decade ago to provide the town with the ability to offer financial and other incentives to attract specific types of investment and redevelopment to Beach Area 1 that aligns with the downtown redevelopment plan. We're not looking to incent residential. We're looking to incent non-residential, and I can think of nothing more appropriate or better to be incenting than a hotel. Many of you have heard previously and may be familiar with the fact that previous Mayor Cal Patterson recognized the importance of a beachfront hotel as well and offered lands at Beach Area 2 for free for a beachfront hotel. They were unsuccessful at attracting one, but that is important context to understand. A hotel will be a key driver of economic development and a key transformational asset to helping us transition from seasonal to year-round economy. We've seen this with the events we've hosted in winter, where we're getting upwards of 40% of folks coming from out of town and they can't find a quality hotel to stay. We're seeing that with the River Dragons out of town hockey teams need to stay in other communities because we don't have that quality year-round hotel as well. We have amazing amenities. We're 20 minutes away from Blue, from other ski hills, etc. So we can absolutely draw people year-round. We just need the accommodation to be able to do that. With respect to valuation, I want to be very clear that there were appraisals done not only on these lands, there was also an appraisal done on the deal that we did with Stonebridge. The appraisal done by HG appraisers, I'll take a side veer for a second, was $12.75 million for the Stonebridge lands, was $5.475 million for Playland Parking Lot, the lands that are subject to the deal with Sunray. That is what the appraiser has said is fair market value for those lands. As council is aware, we realized the deal with Stonebridge for 14. For the lands from 1st to 3rd, we are exceeding fair market value. On the lands we are talking about with Sunray, I presented the business case at a previous council meeting that laid out the fact that we believe we will exceed the appraised value of $5.475 million. So despite the fact that we may be looking at a bit of an incentive for this transaction, you need to look at the cumulative deal that we believe we will absolutely achieve fair market value for. Sunray is a more capital intensive project than what Stonebridge is building. What they intend to build as part of their first phase is a $45 million hotel. You don't sell hotel rooms, so you can't recover that capital before you spend the $45 million. You can't pre-sell for a hotel like you do for some residential product. $45 million comes out of the pocket of Sunray and goes in the ground to build a hotel, and then they recover that over many years and decades. In addition, they will be building underground parking, which is significantly more expensive than at grade or above grade parking. They also will be providing amenities such as a high quality waterfront restaurant. For years, if not decades, I have consistently heard from members of council and the community that the community wants there to be a great restaurant to be able to go down, take their friends, family, guests, etc., and look out across Georgian Bay, not only in the summer, in the shoulder seasons and in the middle of winter. There is nothing better than being out in the middle of a winter storm, having your lunch, looking out at those strong gales coming across the bay. So a great waterfront restaurant will attract people year-round and will be a great amenity for our residents. It will provide convention, wedding facilities, which will put us on the map in the region and in central Ontario. It will have shops and additional small-scale restaurants, as well as pool, spa, etc. These are very important amenities. These are not cheap amenities. So what we will be realizing is a very high premium brand hotel. We're not going to disclose today what that brand is. I do anticipate that that will be disclosed fairly soon. It will follow execution of the agreement of purchase and sale, and we will invite the heads of Sunray up to council, and then they can share with council what their vision and the brand will be. The deal itself, just so you're aware and so that the community is aware, the lands are divided into 4 phases. 3 of those phases are part of a future JV that will come to council. The hotel is the first phase. I want to be very clear on this point. The hotel is not part of the joint venture. The town has no financial involvement in the hotel. We are not involved in financing, construction, or operations of the hotel. Sunray is putting that $45 million in the ground themselves. That's a very important point, and I've heard some confusion around that over the last few weeks. The hotel is a standalone deal. The overall transaction for the lands has a $2 million base price tag. That is being prorated to the 1.5 acres for the hotel, so that the selling price is $580,000 plus HST. Looked at in isolation, yes, one could argue that the municipality is selling the hotel lands below fair market value. I will say the community improvement plan provides the municipality the ability to do that. You need a community improvement plan in place to do that. Mayor Patterson, when he offered the lands for free, did not have a CIP in place. So one could argue what council at that time was doing was actually not legal. What we are doing today is. But it is important to understand that you need to look at the deal in its entirety, so that despite the fact that phase 1 is technically below fair market value, the cumulative deal will net the municipality more than fair market value. The deal requires Sunray to break ground by September 1st, 2026. We believe that is exceptionally conservative, and they will have no problem hitting that. We're going to try and push them to get shovels in the ground in 2025, but they've got a lot of runway to be able to comfortably get approvals, get detailed design done, and get shovels in the ground prior to September 1st, 2026. Construction is required to be substantially complete by September 1st, 2029. The 10-year requirement of not selling, and this is what prompted Councillor Belanger's comment. I'll explain a little bit about what that means. We did not want to have a situation where the municipality on phase 1 sells land below fair market value and then run into a situation of default and then lands get flipped or a hotel gets flipped a year after it's built. Sunray has been very clear with us. They are in it for the long term. They own and operate their buildings, and they are not interested in turning around and flipping this hotel. They intend to be our partner for a long time. That is their history on their other hotels. So they are very excited to be our partner and in it for the long term. And that's why they had no issue at all agreeing to a 10-year guarantee that they would not attempt to sell the hotel within 10 years. Additionally, another layer of security for the public. We recognize that phase one, just the hotel lands are being sold below fair market value. Should something happen and Sunray default, which we don't believe will happen, but again, we need to protect the public, we need to protect the residents. If that does occur, there is a promissory note that will be attached to the deal. An appraisal will be, a second appraisal will be taken and obtained prior to closing on phase one. That will identify exactly what the appraiser believes phase one lands are worth. Sunray will give us a promissory note. In the event that they default, they will pay us the delta between the discounted rate that we are selling at, should council decide to proceed, and what fair market value is on just phase one. So I think we've covered all of the bases to protect the municipality, the residents, but we've also have a bit of latitude to ensure that this really important project for the future of Wasaga Beach moves forward. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Andrew. In-depth and very informative for the public. Appreciate that. Anything further from you, Councillor Belanger, before I move on?
No, that's fine. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, thank you. Next was Councillor Timms.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you to the CAO for that good understanding of the deal. I'm very excited about the conference facilities, to be honest, and the wedding facilities. I think that's going to create a great economic spin-off. But I wonder, Andrew, if you could ask or explain how many jobs this is going to create, definitely when the hotel is there, but as well the trades that are going to be working as they build this facility for us.
Yes, thank you very much. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Timms. We understand that the permanent jobs that will be created will be in excess of 100 jobs within the hotel itself. And that's a combination of staff that will work in the hotel, the restaurant, the shops, etc. I don't have an accurate figure on construction jobs just yet, but when we did the master plan for the beachfront, we anticipated about 1,300 jobs would be created out of the construction of the entire beachfront. So it would be a proportion of that, but I don't know exactly how many will be employed by Sunray during construction.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Timms. Next was Councillor White.
Thank you, Your Worship. You know, fair market value to me is a bit of a wonky term. You know, we use very professional land valuation experts to give us and identify what fair market value should look like. But in reality, in every business school I went to, fair market value is what somebody's willing to pay for the property. And for as long as I've been alive, nobody has gone up to our beachfront, come to our town and said, hey, I want to build a hotel there. I don't know how much money this town has spent on study after study after study after what it takes to get somebody to the table to build a hotel here. But it's been endless amounts of time and money thrown at this. And it's only now that we have a great staff who were able to find a great company that come to the table and give us money for our beachfront, something that we couldn't give away for absolutely free in the past. I think this is a tremendous deal, and staff are very, very, very adept in understanding that this is a catalyst that will raise the value of every other property, not only town-owned properties, but private-owned properties at the beachfront and all along the strip, whether it's along the riverside, the downtown proper, or the beachfront. This is a tremendous deal for Wasaga Beach. This is a tremendous deal for staff. I am so proud of this. Not only is our eventualities or downsides covered tremendously through promissory notes and understanding of can't sells. I think this is a very important moment for Wasaga Beach. So I'm standing up, although I'm sitting down, and I'm heavily clapping this deal. I think this is a great APS. I can't support it more. If I had 5 hands, I would put them all up. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councillor. Next is Councillor DeLeo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, Andrew, thank you for your presentation, for explaining it all. And Councillor White, thank you for your enthusiasm. Although, for me, I love the fact the Sunray's coming. I love the fact he's building a hotel. I love the fact of the amenities, but let's get real. The amenities, the profits will go to him, the conference, the restaurants, which is great, although for the people. I cannot wrap my head around the $580,000 for 1.5 acres right on the beach. I read this agreement over and over and over. I'm having a hard time with that. I really am. 580 is just way below. And I know your statement here also had said that it's permitted by the town's community improvement plan. Well, that's something that the town came up with. So it's not like a provincial law, or it's something that the town came up with. I just feel, for me, 580,000, way below. I think we could have got more for that. I really do. So that's my views on that one. That's it.
If I could,
And
Mr. Mayor?
do you want to, can you explain the CIP program and how it is mandated and regulated
Absolutely.
provincially, please?
Absolutely. And to your comment, Councillor DeLeo, it actually is provincial law. A community improvement plan is a tool granted by the province under the Planning Act. Community improvement plans are used by virtually every municipality in Canada. Granting these types of incentives for hotels is commonplace. I get this is new for Wasaga Beach. I don't minimize that this is new territory, but that's a reality. The province has given us this tool for these exact situations. It was a public process to create the community improvement plan. This tool, the ability to sell land below fair market value, was clearly identified in the CIP and part of a public process. To Councillor White's comment earlier, I could not agree more wholeheartedly. The community and council can sit back and say, this land is worth $48 million, and until somebody pays it, we're going to sit here and wait for it. And I guarantee you, I will be on the other side of the turf before a hotel emerges on the waterfront in Wasaga Beach. Hotels are very different from residential development. And I will tell you, because I have done the circuit trying to attract a hotel here in my previous go-round as economic development director, I talked with every hotel brand in this country, and they were all afraid to come to Wasaga Beach. And the key issue, they all see the market potential. They don't want to be the pioneer. They don't want to be the first one in. Hotels don't like to be the first one in the ground. They want to come to a known place. So they want the village up and running. They want the shops and restaurants and the people living there and the 2-3 million tourists there. So the fact that we have got Sunray at the table willing to invest $45 million, I can't underestimate what a coup that is for Wasaga Beach. And I guarantee you these opportunities do not come around often. This opportunity came to us from the province. The province connected us with Sunray, and we're looking to make this deal happen. I can't help council if you can't get over the fact that it's $585,000, even the fact that the business case, in my view, nets fair market value. But if you're ever going to sell land below fair market value, this is when you do it.
Andrew, how'd you come up with 580,000? I'm just curious.
It's the base land value for the entire parcel is $2 million. It's a combination of a base land value plus the joint venture, which will deliver profit sharing to the municipality. So all we did, quite simply, is take that $2 million and we prorated it based on the geography and carved out 1.5 acres. That got us to the 585. So just simple math.
Okay.
Any further, Councillor?
Nope, I'm done.
Okay, don't forget to put your hand down, please. Next is Deputy Mayor Snell.
Thank you, Your Worship. I won't be redundant as some of the things that have already been covered, but I think, yes, would I like to see more than 580,000 come for this parcel of land? Of course. But who's lining up with $45 million to invest so deeply in our community? That is going to transform our community, not only for local residents, as you mentioned, Councillor DeLeo, in regards to amenities. In having participated in one of the discussions with Sunray, you know, he mentioned at that time it's his goal to potentially open the pool and the small rec facility workout space that they're going to be opening to our community, where they can purchase a membership just like they do at the Recplex and at the YMCA. So, you know, I think it's going to help offset and balance out community services as well, potentially from the east and west side of the community, and take some pressures off of the well-used YMCA. But the fact that we can have now a hotel, look at what that's going to offer. Nowhere in the world, nowhere in Canada can you come to the world's longest freshwater beach and have this type of experience year round. So I think you guys have done an outstanding job. And today, in today's economic climate, to be able to bring this to the finish line is fantastic. I like that there's strong timelines in regards to shovels in the ground and being at a level of completion or near completion. Just one clarification I would like is in regards to selling the lands 10 years, is that once they're opened and occupied, or is that from start of construction, or when does that clock start? If you could clarify, please, Andrew.
So I believe it's from closing, so 10 years from closing. So they would have a number of years under their belt owning and operating the hotel. We do understand that there will be a stabilization period for the hotel. So again, this is Sunray's business. They're walking in eyes wide open. They know the market. They do believe that the hotel will run in the red for the first couple seasons, but by year 4, they will believe it will be operating in the black. And from year 4 on, they will see positive cash flow.
All right, all good there, Deputy Mayor Snell? All right, thank you. Councillor Belanger.
Yes, thank you, through the mayor. Councillor White referred to the increase in value of perimeter lands, and in fact, most of the lands in the area, beach area 1 and 2. But I think someone made the comment about who wants to go first and invest $45 million. And again, not something you can sell. And I've referred to this often. When a company like Sunray finally demonstrates the confidence to make a $45 million investment up front, for the development community as in its totality, it just shouts, it's time to invest. This is the first domino that is going to end up in us creating the downtown we always wanted and the beachfront we always wanted. And I believe that there will be a beehive of investment activity over the coming years. And the kind of commercial tax base and residential tax base that will add to the town of Wasaga Beach will really be economically changing to the benefit of our town, and will allow us to hopefully continue to maintain some of the lowest property taxes in South Georgian Bay. And this is just a very, very exciting time for our town. And again, if I had 3 hands, I'd raise them. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other members of council before I go back to Councillor White that haven't spoke on this? All right, Councillor White.
Yeah, you know, people need to understand how this works. When somebody say, "Oh, there's not a lineup of people to invest $45 million on our beachfront," I think that's just a misnomer, because Sunray doesn't have, or likely doesn't have, $45 million sitting in the trunk of a car somewhere. They have a litany a consortium, as it's called, of investors behind them backing these types of operational deals that they're coming with. You know, the town is very good at identifying what the value of the where the Stonebridge development is going to be, and there's been a long list of people lined up to build residential properties at great profit on our beachfront. And we have finally got somebody who's going to pay actually fair market value for that. But to put in a hotel that level of risk, it requires a great deal more thought, and it's a lot more attention. So to see the vision behind not only Sunray, but the investors that support this organization is brilliant. And it just goes to show that this is the right deal at the right time. And I know, I'm with you, Councillor DeLeo. There's $1 million here or whatever that, you know what, we could have sat around and waited forever for. But I'll bet you 10 years from now, when you look back on this and you'll say, did the town make the right deal here? Did they choose the right time? Did they choose the right developer? I think the answer is going to be yes. Holding out for that extra $1 million or whatever it could have been to make this catalyst happen. I think we've been doing this for generations, and acting now is brilliant. So I'm with it 100%.
Thank you, Councillor. Andrew.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, Councillor White is hitting some incredibly important points. The opportunity cost of not acting now, there's a dollar figure to it, because every day lands sit vacant is another day we don't collect assessment on those lands. 5 years, 10 years from now, when this beautiful hotel is up and running and we're generating $500,000-$600,000 a year in property tax from just the hotel, that's forever. $1 million, I know it's a lot of money, but that assessment will more than cover it. I also wanted to share with you, when we first started our discussions with Sunray, and I have the highest regard for them, they are first-class operation, they asked us, could they build the other 3 phases first so that they can generate some capital and then build the hotel last? That's how most developers would approach this. We said, no, we want you to build the hotel first. They didn't put up a fight, and they agreed. And they said, you know what, we agree with that. We agree that the hotel is transformational and it needs to come first. So they get it. Their vision is aligned with us. I can't speak highly enough about Sunray. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, Andrew.
AirPods just died. I've been talking too long. I can't speak highly enough about the quality of developers that we're currently working with both Stonebridge and Sunray. They are aligned with our vision. They get it. They're both very well financed. So we're not in a situation where we have to rely on 100 investors to crowdfund to build a hotel. I think Sunray is well financed and can come to the table and make this happen. So that is a situation that this community has not been in 100 years, quite frankly.
Thank you, Andrew. Any other questions or comments? Right, seeing none, it's always astonishing to me that, the amount of time, effort, and work and dollars that have been put into this beachfront over the decades from countless councils and countless developers and investors, quite frankly. And here we still are today with nothing but shantytown, dilapidated, area of our community. And yet people today still say, we don't need to fix this, is just absolutely mind-boggling to me. And very self-serving, quite frankly, in my opinion. I would caution members of council to be careful who's in your ear. Be careful who's screaming the loudest, because we all get the people who don't agree screaming in our ear. But here's what I would say. Just take a little time, do a little homework with an open mind and an unbiased opinion, and you will clearly be able to see that what we're doing here is absolutely great for our community. Going back to when the provincial park came to Wasaga Beach in the early 70s. And we started after that to see decline in our main beach area. Councils and mayors and staff have been working hard every council term to make something happen here. And unfortunately, in the last couple or few council terms, politics has been, out of control in many ways to simply just stifle and stop for the sake of stopping and stifling because someone didn't like somebody else. Child's play. Mm. And not only was it disgraceful, but it quite frankly is pathetic. And we have a staff and a council who is open and transparent, doing our damnedest to move this community forward, to do what the people of Wasaga Beach overwhelmingly voted and elected us to do. And we're doing it. And there are some out there screaming and yelling from the rooftops, several of which are doing so for political aspiration, quite frankly. I'm just going to put it all on the table here today. Be careful what they say, because I will tell you that they'll tell you anything and they'll say anything and they'll throw anything up against the wall they possibly can in hopes that it will stick. So for whatever political reason down the road, they may have a chance to be in power. And you know what? If that's the case, I can tell you firsthand that I absolutely believe in the political process. And I accept whatever comes my way when it comes to election time. And I think I'm an expert in that today, because I've been there, I haven't been there, and I'm now back there. But I can tell you that I, for one, and the vast majority, if not all of this council, are here for the right reasons. As Councillor Belanger would say a million times, community first. Here to do what is best to move this community forward. To hear people with comments that I can't wrap my head around this or I can't wrap my head around that, if you can't, it's because you haven't spoke to staff or asked the questions. But I can tell you that these types of deals, these types of advantages, these types of disadvantages that are put in place by this council is all done so within the rules and confinements and laws of the province of Ontario. Every one of them. CIP being one of them. The CIPs are created and governed by the province of Ontario and say, here's what you can and can't do. The difference is we're following those rules, and in the past, maybe they weren't followed for whatever reason. By error, on purpose, who knows? And quite frankly, who cares? It's in the past. But here's what I will say to those people. Do you have a list in your pocket of 20 hoteliers that want to invest $45 to $50 million on our beachfront? Because if you don't, then I don't know what you're speaking to or what you're speaking about. Because I can tell you we don't have a list. We have a list of one. And it just so happens that that one is the number one hotelier in our country with a very successful, proven track record. And yes, you know what? Everything that they're going to do down there, they're going to do to make money. It's called business. I've been in business for 40 plus years, and I will never apologize for making money or losing money. That's business. But we've got the right team here with this group who know this industry and know it well and are committed for a minimum of 10 years. And they have been very clear. We'll sign 10 years, we'll sign 20 years. Sign whatever you want because we aren't going anywhere. We build hotels and we run that business, and they do it quite well. And I'm confident in the not too distant future, we'll know exactly what brand it is, and I think we're all going to be over the moon. Now, are there people in Wasaga Beach who are in business today who don't like the fact that a high-quality hotel might be coming to our beach? Absolutely, I've heard from them. But this is what is best for our community. You hear people say we shouldn't have condominiums and hotels on our beachfront. We need to take it back to what it used to be. Well, people who say that have not educated themselves with the past and the history of this community. I was alive when there were 4 to 5 story buildings on our beachfront, the Capstan Inn being one of them that comes to mind. The Wasaga Inn, that name might not be exactly correct. And, you know, what happened back in the day when all of the businesses and the buildings that we're now tearing down were built? Were people then screaming and yelling, we shouldn't have businesses and condominiums and residential and hotels on our beachfront? Probably they were. 2 things we all hate: change in the way things are. And here's what I can tell you. The vast majority of people who have spoke to me in defiance of this are not people who know the history or have educated themselves, or they have ulterior motives. So be careful who you listen to. The vast majority of this community elected this council to do exactly what we're doing. There isn't a member sitting on this council today who didn't say that they were going to push hard to make this happen and move forward with the absolutely best opportunity that we can for this community. And so, council, be careful who's whispering in your ear. And be careful to what you're listening to. Just some advice, not direction. Because I hear it all the time. I hear it through conversations with members of this council. I hear it through, other people within the community. There is always going to be a group of people who don't agree with what you're doing. If you can get 100%, gosh, if you could get 70% of the people agreeing with anything you do, boy, oh boy, please tell me how you did it, because if we can master that, there's a lot to be had. And so, I also encourage council, if there's something you don't understand, or you ask the experts, ask our staff. They're here for you at any given time to answer your questions. That's why we have them. They're the experts. Our job is to govern. And we've given them clear direction, and they've done it very, very well. Okay. I see Councillor DeLeo's hand up. Usually once the chair has spoken, we're done, but I'm going to let you have a very brief question or comment. Councillor, go ahead.
Thank you. It's a comment. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I can't help but feel, but most of your speech was triggered towards me.
Absolutely not.
I'm going to make something. Okay, but I'm going to.
Before you go on,
yeah.
I directed it to council specifically because it isn't directed to anyone. You're not the only individual who has ever come to this council or before council as a member of this council and said, I don't understand, or whatever, or I don't believe something. So this is not directed to you in any way, shape, or form. My comments were just like yours or just like anyone else, directed to the public in an open, transparent process. It's my thoughts and my opinions, but nothing to do with you personally or directed to you. Carry on.
Just to make it public though, everybody listens to we listen. That's our job as councillors, is to listen. But every decision I make here on council is how I feel, how people voted for me to be their voice, and that's how I feel, and that's how I will vote. So I'm not swayed by this or that or who and him. I'm not. So everything that I say and do, it comes from me and my heart and how I feel. So I just wanted to make that public. And it's nothing towards anybody on council or anybody out there. It's just the way I feel. And if I can't do my job the way I feel, then I might as well step down. So.
Absolutely, as it should be, Councillor, and I'm sure everyone else in this council does the same thing you're doing. We vote individually as we feel and as we think. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay, I do have a motion, a recommended motion that the report titled Beachfront Agreement of Purchase and Sale, Sunray, to the council meeting of March 6, 2024 be received, and that council approve entering into the agreement of purchase and sale, and that council delegate authority to the mayor, CAO, and clerk to execute the final agreement, providing there are no substantive changes from the draft APS that accompanies this report. Any other questions or comments on the motion? All right, could I have a mover and a seconder for this, please? Moved by Councillor White, seconded by Councillor Timms. Madam Clerk, please call the vote.
Thank you, Your Worship. Councillor Blanchet.
In favor.
Councillor DeLeo.
In favor.
Deputy Mayor Snell.
In favor?
Councillor Timms.
In favor.
Councillor White.
1,000% in favor.
Okay. Mayor Smith.
1,001% in favor.
Well, then that carries unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, item number 14 on the agenda is recommendations arising from boards and committee meetings. We have none. And then we have Councillor DeLeo, you have a question? Sorry, you're deleted, deleted. You're muted, Councillor.
Sorry. I actually have a request for reconsideration on staff on report 10. May I bring that forward?
Please go ahead.
Okay. I would like to make a request for reconsideration for the consent motion under staff reports, item 10, to remove the item 10.10 to be voted on separately. May I?
So
Run it
you
up for
want to
discussion.
pull item 10.10. You hadn't requested that before. Now you want to do that. So we're going
Yes,
to
please.
need a 2/3 vote in favor of that consideration. Madam Clerk, I'll look to you.
Thank you, Your Worship. Because it was done within the same meeting, the reconsideration would require a majority. So if Councillor DeLeo wants to move that, if there's a seconder, you could take the vote, Your Worship.
All right, someone to second that, seconded by Councillor White. All right, so the motion on the floor is to reconsider 10.10. Did I get that right?
Yes, sir.
10.10, all right, which was voted on already in the consent. So the request is to remove that and now vote on that separately. So it is moved by Councillor DeLeo, seconded by Councillor White. Questions or comments? Deputy Mayor Snell?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm working off of a different agenda that keeps changing as things get removed. So just to clarify, 10.10 is which item, please, Madam Clerk?
It's the Downtown CIP Sunray
CIP?
Tax Increment Equivalency Grant.
Okay, thank you. I thought that what it might be, but mine's showing as 10.6 as things get dealt with. Thank you.
All right. Sorry, Madam Clerk, now in retrospect, I think she might have said, asked you that question and I answered it. My apologies.
No, that was perfect.
All right, Councillor Timms?
I just wanted to say, Your Worship, that I would support this motion so that we can have a robust discussion.
All right.
I haven't called the vote yet, but I wanted to put that out there.
Thank you, Councillor Timms. Councillor White?
Yes, absolutely the same thing. I will be supporting this motion it brings an opportunity for vigorous debate and transparency, something I strongly believe in.
Thank you, Councillor White. Anyone else? All right, so we have the question on the floor. It is moved by Councillor DeLeo and seconded by Councillor White. All in favor? Or does this need to be recorded, Madam Clerk, just for the record?
Through Your Worship, it does not have to be recorded vote unless requested. It's just by majority. Raise a hand.
All right, I'll call the question then. All in favor? That carries unanimously. All right, so then 14 we went through. We'll now go back to item number 10.10, which is the Downtown CIP Sunray Tax Increment Equivalency Grant. And I'll look to Councillor DeLeo, who pulled this for comment.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, I might be the white elephant in the room, but I'm seeing here up to 3 years tax-free for the just for the hotel. I'm hoping it's just for the hotel. And then for the next 4 to 5 years, 50%. So Andrew had said that it's an equivalent of $500,000 to $600,000 a year in taxes that it would be bringing after the 5 years. That's 2.7 million in 5 years. Like, I don't understand how they're getting the property at a good value. Hooray, Sunray's coming. Now we're going to exempt them from property tax completely for 3 years. We've got residents that can't afford their property tax, and yet they're getting it for free. I need to justify this. I can't wrap my head around it. I'm having a hard time with it. That's like you're giving the finger, but it's the whole hand is included. I need an explanation on that because I'm having a hard time with that. And
Right.
to bring this
Before I
up.
go to other members of council, Andrew, do you want to just explain this as best you can for council before we take any further questions?
Happy to, Mr. Mayor, and through you to Councillor DeLeo. Absolutely. And as I said earlier, I understand this is new for Wasaga Beach. This, to my knowledge, will be the first TEAG application that this municipality has ever considered. In the GTA, these are commonplace. Virtually every second week, you're getting a TEAG application. These types of requests come from usually non-residential uses. So you may have a factory or a significant employer. I'm pretty confident if you look at the deal in Alliston, there was probably some form of TEAG that was entered into to attract Honda to Alliston. So these types of things are commonplace. The one caveat with residential is affordable housing. Very often, affordable housing projects will put in an application for tax relief or a TEAG. What a TEAG is it's usually a sliding scale, and it offers a reduction or a grant in property taxes for a set period of time. The period of time can vary. The request in front of us today is for 5 years. I've seen TEAG requests as long as 30 years, 35 years, 50 years. Some requests in the GTA are actually in perpetuity. So a lot of affordable housing requests are now moving into granting property tax relief forever. So we're not talking about anything like that. Again, this is a tool that the province has provided to municipalities to use within a community improvement area for this exact purpose, to help attract employers and significant economic development investment. This was laid out in the community improvement plan that was passed in Mayor Smith's first term between 14 and 18. It was a tool that was clearly identified and explained how it could be used. The criteria for applying was clearly laid out in the community improvement plan. So we worked with staff. Sunray has submitted a detailed application. It's attached as Appendix A to the TEAG application. They adhere to the criteria that we are looking for: quality urban design, street scale, mixed use, etc. So they went through, ticked all the things that apply. A key element is demonstrating financial need for this TEAG. We did remove the financial pro forma element from the agenda. It is somewhat proprietary in nature, but staff have reviewed in detail the financial reasons for this request. When I mentioned earlier, the request is for a 5-year TEAG. They know hotel business better than we will ever know. They, again, are coming in eyes wide open and have said to us that they are going first. They're going to be somewhat of a pioneer on our beachfront. This is an uncomfortable thing for a hotel to do. They usually like to go into areas that are already well established, and in Wasaga's case, they would much prefer if it was truly year-round down on our beachfront today, because the risk is lower on their part. Recognizing that they're going to be in the ground first, in parallel with Stonebridge, I should mention, they recognize that there's a transitionary period and a stabilization period for the hotel. In the first 3 to 4 years, they anticipate that the hotel will operate in the red. So meaning they are coming in understanding that they're going to lose money. By requesting that some relief on property taxes, that helps them stabilize the hotel. It helps the brand get out in the community. So for example, this beautiful restaurant that they're going to build on our beachfront, and they've shared with me some names that I hope to share with council soon of what they're thinking about. It will attract people from all over Simcoe County to come for lunch, for dinner, on the weekends, etc. But you need a period of time for word to spread and for people in Collingwood and Thornbury and Meaford to know oh, let's go for a great restaurant dinner at this beautiful waterfront hotel in Wasaga Beach. So that takes a bit of time for that reputation to establish. It takes a bit of time for the tourists to know that, oh, Wasaga's got an amazing hotel on par or better than the Westin at the Village at Blue. We don't need to host our convention at Blue Mountain anymore. We can go host our convention in Wasaga Beach. So that will happen. It just takes a bit of time. They're asking us to help them during that stabilization period. In my opinion, this is a very reasonable request. We pulled together a staff team as per the CIP process, made up of myself, the CFO, General Manager of Infrastructure Services, General Manager of Legislative Development Services, Director of Planning, CBO, and Economic Development Officer to go through the details of their application and to review the details of their financial pro forma. We were all unanimous in our agreement that this is, if you're ever going to offer a TEAG, this is the textbook example of why you would offer it. So we wholeheartedly recommend that council entertain this. Sunray has communicated to us that this is quite important to them. After the stabilization period, they're good. They are very confident that this will operate in a profitable manner. So hopefully that explains it, but that's what it's designed to do.
Can I just add to that?
Yeah, you do, Councillor, go ahead.
Thank you. You've explained it beautifully. It makes sense. My other scenario would be this: God willing, let's say the second year the hotel's not in the red anymore. They're doing great. Will they, out of goodwill, start paying the property tax early? If they're making a profit, then why should we be subsidizing? Like, you never know. Second year they can do amazing. Third year they can do amazing. Fourth year, you never know. Would they be, out of goodwill, start paying those property taxes?
So to your comment, Councillor DeLeo, so again, it's a sliding scale. So I should explain the actual TEAG itself. So the TEAG for years 1 to 3 is 100% reduction in property tax. In year 4 and 5, it would be 50%. In year 6, they pay 100%, and every year past that, they pay 100%. So out of their goodwill, would they voluntarily agree to start paying? I think eyes wide open. If I was a business person and I understand my business as well as Sunray, and I'm telling you this is what I need to make this hotel viable, I don't think we should expect that to happen. I do fully expect Sunray to be a good corporate citizen. They're in this for the long term, and we will likely see them sponsor events and sponsor all kinds of community events because that's the kind of corporate citizen they are. So while we may not get full property taxes if they turn a profit quickly, I do expect we will see other things that will come from this business relationship. So I hope that answers your question.
It does. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councillor. I think a good example of that is they've also already agreed to put $1.5 million into that festival square. So that's certainly a positive and good start. Next was Councillor White.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. This was part of the consent agenda. I agreed with it, and I agreed with it for these reasons. I agreed with it because there is risk. It's a risky business running a hotel, like you had said at Blue. They did put in their ancillary hotels first, Mosaic, Grand Georgian, whatever, and at the very end did they put in the Westin Hotel. So this is a bit of a reverse. However, I have lived in Muskoka. I have lived in Victoria, British Columbia, and in many other tourist towns around this great nation. And I can tell you the number one detriment to new builds and to the tourism industry in itself is just not being well run, the lack of resources to run their business well. A new business sprouts up and they don't have the economic viability to have it well staffed, well cleaned, and well run. For Wasaga Beach to experience the full power of the catalyst that's being given by the discounted price to get them there in the first place, we need that spark to burn bright. And I think that the TEAG gives us the opportunity to work with Sunray, to let them burn bright for a long period of time to maximize the catalyst and the benefit not only for the town, but also for the other private businesses that are going to be spun off in and around this area. So that's what I said. And it's risky in Wasaga Beach for lots of reasons. You can go and look at every year. We have a comment, we have a critique, we have some sort of thing that ties our tourism success to things like weather, things like the economy, and to what the provincial park is doing. So with all these things considered in, I think it is a brilliant request by Sunray to ask for a TEAG, and I think it was very, very, very good of staff to be able to limit it to only being 5 years. So that's why I voted for it. I know people like to hear the justification, and that's it there.
Thank you, Councillor White. Councillor Belanger?
Yes, these are somewhat complicated deals, and it's difficult to gauge how our residency understands all of the dialogue. But I think we've all purchased property and purchased homes, and that's always been a negotiation. You have an asking price. You may get to an asking price and say, yeah, but I want you to throw in the pool table and the dining room sweat, or maybe you offer $10,000 less and $5,000. It's a negotiation. It's a negotiation to an end. You either walk away or you make the deal. That is what we've done with Sunray. But I think the biggest thing the public has to understand, I've just done the calculation. For the last 30 years, what we've collected in hotel property tax off Beach 1 and 2, I believe, is zero. And over the next 30 years, even with the TIG, we will collect in excess of $13,250,000 in excess. I'd base that on 500,000. It'll probably be a little more. So the cost of doing nothing is huge. The cost to have done nothing for the last 30 years is huge. It is time for us to understand the difference between cost and investment. This is a worthwhile, well thought out, necessary investment for Wasaga Beach to reach its potential as a beautiful place to live, work, and play, but to also, I guess, secure our economic potential. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you very much, Councillor Belanger. Deputy Mayor Snell.
Thank you, Your Worship. I won't be redundant with what the other councillors have said already that I really agree with, and that's why I voted to pass this from the get-go with the agenda, just because I agree with its principle and I agree with the incentive. And to the point around Honda that Andrew made, there in that situation, the feds contributed $2.5 billion, and the Conservatives, the province also put in $2.5 billion. And that just goes to show that they're obviously investing in all those jobs. These types of incentives, correct me if I'm wrong, Andrew, would also be used if, a community was trying to attract a post-secondary education facility or was trying to incentivize a new hospital to be developed or something like that. So it's very, 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 very common even outside of the for-profit world. In my opinion. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Snell. Any comment on that, Andrew?
I would just agree. And I need to check my facts on this, but if I am not mistaken, I believe the council did waive some property tax for affordable housing on Zoo Park. I'll confirm that, but I was mistaken. I thought this was the first time, but that actually might have been the first time.
Yeah, and I think that development charges as well, possibly there, Andrew. So, the battery plant in Honda is a good example. Again, the federal, the provincial, and the county, and the municipality. I'm not sure I had done anything with respect to putting any dollars, but certainly was at the table to ensure that that battery plant was successful. And Alliston was successful in being chosen for that plant, because it could have went in other locations south of the border as well. And it's an investment in doing what is best for the people of the country, the province, the county, and the municipality. We cannot afford not to move forward with this plan and get it done. We have been losing, if you will, millions of dollars annually in taxes, millions of dollars in development charges, and letting what was very sad, the fire in 2007, but also should have been a moment of celebration in the sense that we were going to be able to improve and move forward. And here we are, many, many, many years later, in the same place. And I can tell you that the folks that I talk to and hear from on a much regular basis, 100 to 1, are saying thank you. It's about time we get this done and get moving forward. And these are positive things for our community. And this is truly an investment on behalf of the town of Wasaga Beach and our taxpayers to make sure that we improve not only tax input and dollars received that are commercial in nature, that are going to help reduce residential tax, but more residential tax base as well, to give more dollars so as that we can control moving forward better what taxes are going to look like in this community. And at the same time, increase the values, not just of beachfront lands, but increase the values of every property in this community. The more desirable, the more vibrant, the more people want to be in your community because you offer the services and have the desired amount of choice and selection, the more people want to live in your community. And, that just pushes values for everybody up, and everyone wins there. And so I think that we are moving in the right direction. I know we are moving in the right direction, and we're making good decisions on behalf of the people of Wasaga Beach. No further comments on this. The motion is then that the report titled Downtown CIP Sunray Tax Increment Equivalency Grant, TIEG, TIEG, to the council meeting of March 6, 2025 be received, and that council approve the application for a 5-year TIEG for the beachfront hotel only, and that the CAO, clerk, and CFO be delegated authority to execute the TIEG agreement between the town and the Sunray Group, aka Sunray Beach Drive, Inc., as per the terms and conditions outlined in the staff report. Any further questions or comments on this? Could I have a mover and a seconder for this, please? Moved by Councillor White, seconded by Councillor Timms. Madam Clerk, would you please call the vote?
Thank you, Your Worship. Councillor Blanchet.
In favor.
Councillor DeLeo.
In favor.
Deputy Mayor Snell.
In favor.
Councillor Timms.
In favor.
Councillor White.
In favor.
Mayor Smith.
In favor?
Carries unanimously.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. And now we're going to item number 15 on the agenda. Council requested staff reports. Council, you've seen the list. Any questions or comments on the staff reports? All right, seeing none, we will move on to item number 16, notices of motion. And we have none before us at this time. Item number 17 is the closed session. And the recommended motion is that pursuant to the Municipal Act 2001 as amended, the next portion of the March 6, 2025 council meeting will move into closed session to consider the following matters. 17.3.1, proposed disposition or acquisition of lands. Questions or comments? Mover and a seconder then, please. Moved by Deputy Mayor Snell, seconded by Councillor Belanger. All in favor? That carries unanimously. While staff are moving us over into closed session, we will take a 10-minute break. So please be back by, let's say, 12:40. All right, and we will be in camera at that time.
And we're live, Your Worship.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Clerk, and welcome back, everybody. Council is in closed session to discuss a property acquisition matter, and I'll turn to our clerk for a rise and report. Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Your Worship. Council entered closed session on March 6, 2025 at 12:40 p.m. to hear the following matter. 17.3.1, proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land in accordance with Section 239(2)C of the Municipal Act. As a result of that discussion, there's nothing further to report at this time. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And moving on to item number 19 of our agenda is bylaws. The recommended motion that the bylaw 2025-09 be received and to be deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and finally passed. Can I have a mover and a seconder for this bylaw, please? Moved by Deputy Mayor Snell, seconded by Councillor White. All in favor? That carries unanimously. And 19.1 is bylaw 2025-09, a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Wasaga Beach at its regular council meeting held Thursday, March 6, 2025.
Your
Questions
Worship.
or comments here?
And
Mover to
your-
seconder, please.
Your Worship, you already moved that, so you're good to go.
All right, all in favor? That carries unanimously, and this meeting is adjourned. Thanks, everybody.